In the weeks leading up to the election, Twitter, Facebook, and a lot of these companies, they tried to banish, not let you see what turned out to be accurate report from the New York Post about the salacious materials on Hunter Biden's laptop. And by the way, Democrats, the media mob, big tech, buckle up. You've been warned. I have numerous credible sources telling me the contents of this laptop will be devastating to the Bidens and the Democrats. I am told it is beyond that bad.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Restricted Republic. My name is Justus Knight. Can't thank you enough for being here. I think the proverbial bubble burst of everyone who's unaware of everything happening in the Hunter Biden laptop saga. We have covered it from the very beginning since the first breaking New York Post story. Well, can that now play into what's happening around us? You have heard of the red alert put out by the FBI. Armed protests being planned at all 50 state capital, FBI bulletin says. Well, the FBI are the same folks that have that Hunter Biden laptop. I'm sure there's quite a stress now on getting all the information released to the American public, what they want you to hear and what they don't want you to hear. And before anybody questions it, fact check by USA Today will go to what they call a credible news source. Yes, Hunter Biden is under federal investigation over taxes. Well, the story transitions much larger to that. It involves the FBI bulletin. It involves some things that we're going to talk about in very short order. Before we go any further, however, if you haven't subscribed to me here on this platform, I certainly hope you will, and I know a lot of you are. I've never seen numbers like this since we've introduced Restricted Republic, and for that we are forever grateful. On to Restricted Republic. I don't ask for donations, as you've noticed. Rather, what I do is I provide you something in return that is unfiltered and uncensored news. RestrictedRepublic.com. Right now, by using coupon code TRUMP, you're going to get $5 a month for the first 12 months. We'll charge you $5 each month. On top of that, 14 days to check it out to make sure it's everything we know it is. And right now, if that urgency isn't behind that move, then it never will be. It's why we created Restricted Republic, beholden to no one but our audience. No commercials, no sponsors, no one to steer the truth but us. But now let's get back on to this broadcast and discuss more of the truth. And by the way, if you haven't gone over to Gab and Mayway and joined us there yet, I'm going to give you another reminder at the end of the video. I'm leaving my links just below in the description box. Please get over there. You saw today we shut down several of our pages on Facebook. We are going to continue the exodus. This is not a test. We also closed our Twitch account. If you go against freedom of speech, we can't support you. But now let's go on. Past this, Hunter Biden is under federal investigation. Moving on, all available evidence confirms Joe Biden knew about Hunter's business dealings and chose to do nothing about it, according to the Washington Examiner. This is where the question starts to become very significant. The American public is due information on all their public officials. If that's President Trump, if that's Biden, it makes no difference. However, what we've seen now is a direct and quick and poignant changing of how we have free speech. Twitter here, an update following the riots in Washington, D.C. It goes on, many of the individuals, I'll go full screen, make it a little bit easier to read, many of the individuals impacted by this updated enforcement action held multiple accounts, driving up the total number of accounts impacted since Friday. More than 70,000 is coming from Twitter's feed directly. 70,000 accounts have been suspended as a result of our efforts, with many instances of a single individual operating numerous accounts. These accounts were engaged in sharing harmful QAnon-associated content at scale and were primarily dedicated to the propagation of this conspiracy theory across the service. If you were associated with QAnon, you are now silenced. Facebook also jumping into the mix again. Our preparations ahead of Inauguration Day. What are they saying? We are now removing content, and I wish we can, let's go side screen, make that, because it's right down on the bottom here. We are removing content containing the phrase "Stop the Steal" under our coordinated harm policy from Facebook and Instagram. So if you dare to have that on any of your posts or your profile, you'll also be silenced and taken down. It's continuing. It's picking up pace. This story here was unusual. This is from Gab. We are adding almost 1 million people per day, and site traffic is adding millions every few hours on top of that. Gab is the fastest growing website in the history of the internet. You see here a link to Twitter, but when you click on that link, here's what you get. Silence. The tweet has been removed. So even when you're simply declaring your own success and how well you're doing, you're removed. Even if you are wildly successful and become the #1 download overnight, you're shut down. Business Insider, Parler's CEO, said Google's decision to ban the app was a horrible way to handle this. AOC, of course, has urged Apple to take similar action, which they did. Silence for all. But my question is more important than that, and many of you probably know the answer. Why this sudden urge for out-and-out, outlandish silence? This is completely against the law. You can claim your private platform all you want, but when you enjoy Section 230 protection, that breaches your ability to those who post. You are insulated for any litigation due to what they post outside of some very basic parameters. Well, now what you've done, especially in the case of Amazon, who would enjoy some of that protection, they have shut down Parler. So basically violating the same protection that Facebook and Twitter and everyone else receives, but it's not okay for Parler. Now there's talks from Devin Nunes and others that this could be a federal racketeering case. And it's a strong case. You can't collude against a competitor. It's pretty simple politics. Well, pretty simple law. But what will happen? No one knows. We're just watching for Parler to go back up. That second reminder before we complete this story is if you haven't gone over to Mayway yet, please do it. It's growing exponentially, and that we couldn't be happier about. Gab has been slow lately, understandably so. When you're adding 1 million users a day, you have to upgrade certain server platforms. So give them a break, let them develop it, let them get further, and also why Parler is getting up and running. No, you can't find it right now. They had to find a new hosting service because Amazon said bye-bye. Well, that's what happens. And if you think these warnings are unusual, you should see the ones I'm going to post on Restricted Republic today, the ones you can't talk about, the ones you're not allowed to. So if you want to kind of round off on my second broadcast later, I'm going to tell you something that is of utmost importance, not only to our security, but our safety as a whole. And you can't miss this. Please, please take us up on the 14 days. It's imperative you watch what I have to say. But let's move on now. Court upholds conviction of Chinese businessman linked to Hunter Biden. You see, the case surrounding Hunter Biden is actually very strong. Nobody's denying that, not USA Today, not any fact checker, not any source, but most of America wasn't privy to this information up front, the New York Post article, because all the tech titans and media titans decided no one needed to hear it. It would have shined a very negative light on then candidate Joe Biden. And see how that would have changed everything. So this is what happens when you consolidate too much power within a very few select amount of people. The media is run by only a handful. That's no different than the internet or, as you see now, social media. And when it's run by only a handful that have unchecked power, when they decide collectively that the story is going to be silent, the story just disappears. But that doesn't serve in the best interest of America. Now, we know that the Trump impeachment process is under full swing, but it's an article just below that that says Pentagon authorized up to 15,000 National Guardsmen to support the inauguration. That should start to have you in the beginning phases of some amount of concern. The FBI bulletin, a second amount of concern, as Bolton urges Republicans to purge the taint of Trumpism. I'll just leave it at that. Somebody should really learn how to edit articles, or at least know what words mean. But Pentagon authorizes, I'm sorry, if you don't laugh right now, you'll absolutely just break. Pentagon authorizes up to the 15,000 National Guardsmen to support the inauguration. But here's the more critical little bits of information. Remembering that the FBI is the one who holds Hunter Biden's laptop, the one who's analyzing the information within that laptop. The one who understands that last time around when information was released, it was suppressed by mainstream media and social media in a lot of ways. The ones who know that that information has to be released shortly. When you're coming into an inauguration, that is impeccably horrible timing and could cause, well, if you know what's on the information and you know what's in the laptop and you heard what Sean Hannity had to say earlier, well, now maybe you could start to put the pieces together.
So we will see in the months ahead where all these groups stand on issues like law and order, impeachment, and who knows, maybe even the 25th Amendment. And of course, we all know that Hunter Biden is under a federal investigation for this international money laundering and tax evasion. We also have credible reports Joe Biden himself was keenly aware of his son's pay-for-play schemes.
Because It's a big shell game happening right now, and it's why you need Truth Media to kind of piece it together the best we can here. We go into a lot more detail elsewhere. But at least so you can see this is what information is. You're supposed to make your own decisions. I'm not supposed to make it for you. I love in some of the comments, well, what do we got to do about it? Well, it's my job as a journalist to provide you information so you can come up with your own opinions. It's how journalism is supposed to work. I'm not supposed to tell you what to think. I'm not supposed to tell you what to believe. Yeah, I have an opinion, most certainly. If you agree with that opinion, great. If you don't agree with that opinion, great. Oh, wait, that's freedom of speech, though, and freedom of expression, something that is now woefully lost. Wow, I know it's not something you hear on the news anymore, is it? Except for a very small few. So the FBI warns armed protests begin being planned at all 50 state capitals and in Washington, D.C. That had me begging the question, what we do over at what I'm going to tell you over at Restricted, which is a very, very, very real reality that everybody needs to be very cognizant of. And then part two, do they know something else? Are they aware that if information was to come out, that America won't be very happy about it? As Sean Hannity said, it will shock the soul of this nation. You see, it's not hard to put the pieces together if you simply watched a very small fragments of actual information that's remaining. We have to dig deep, day in and day out, to be able to piece these mosaics together. And that's exactly what they want it to be. They want it to be a puzzle, except they want to take away 75% of the pieces, tell you to try to put it together and see what the picture is. What mainstream media and social media tech titans can do now is assure you'll never see those pieces. You'll never know what the full picture is. You'll just know the pieces they gave you and what they want you to think the picture looks like. And you see, that's a challenge, and why so many of us are fighting so hard for freedom of speech on all these platforms. Why I continue to publish here. It's not the only platform I do. Because you deserve information. You deserve to be able to formulate your own opinions. Nobody condones violence. You don't. I don't. We all know that. But we're being made to look like that this bigger group does, and that's ridiculous. It's uninformed, it's unintelligent, it's non-intellectual, call it what you want, but it's what they want to breed. It's what the likes of AOC and Ilhan Omar and all the folks that you're watching, the talking heads in Congress calling for censure of their own members, removal of their own members, now going after members of the Senate. It's all ludicrous. It's not the way politics is supposed to work. It's not the way we're supposed to communicate. But my question is, what does the FBI know that everybody else doesn't yet?
This foreign policy Biden family syndicate. And get this, Hunter's laptop is now being used as evidence in the case. He's been told he's a target. Again, contents, I am told, could shock the soul of a nation. Time will tell.
Why did they put out this warning? There's two scenarios. One that I've just presented you here. They know what's on the information that's about to be released. They're concerned what that's going to do to the integrity of the nation because it may involve those who are now in power. We've already seen some evidence of that, especially when a direct family is involved. And that's a big concern for this potential inbound administration. And so are those warnings to protect that very structure? Or is there another scenario? One that we all have to be very concerned about. I don't do two-part videos, so rather we just do two separate videos. We always do, at least in Unrestricted, we're doing now upwards of 3 a day because the news is picking up such a high pace. So if you haven't gone over there right now, 14 days on us. Use discount code Trump, $5 a month for the next 12 months. Enjoy the information. Watch what a true exchange of communication looks like. Just look at the comments and how they differ from everything else you see. And you'll quickly realize you're not alone. No. You think like everybody else. How many millions and millions and millions and millions of voters voted for Trump? And guess what? They're all not crazy lunatics like the mainstream media wants everybody to believe. They're not all radical rightists. No, they're people who care for their country, concerned for their family, work hard for a living, fought for this nation. Those are the real people, but they don't want you to know that. It's a disinformation campaign unlike anything I've ever seen in my history. We are living in times that I could never have imagined. And what we're seeing is just simply not okay. It's not the way anything should be operating. And hopefully somebody begins to fix this. So until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.